Greetings all, and welcome to the 23rd episode of TM Technical Movement. For today, we'll be taking a look at the Fling, Dark Pulse, and Night Slash attacks, and the Switcheroo, Torment, Flatter, Taunt, Snatch, Fake Tears, Embargo, and Nasty Plot techniques.
Much as the name suggests, the Fling attack simply involves the user throwing its held item at the opponent after cloaking it in anti-positive energy. The Fling attack is a unique case among moves in that it serves the dual purpose of not only damaging the opposition, but using the user's held item in a way otherwise impossible in battle. After sheathing their projectile in anti-positive energy to increase the amount of damage it can actually deal, the user of a Fling attack simply lobs the held item at a target with extreme accuracy and precision, and lets his item do the rest from there. For one thing, this means the actual damage on the attack would be dependent upon the mass of the thrown object, with items like berries and scars dealing minimal damage, and an iron ball dealing the maximum amount of damage. Moreover, when certain held items strike an opponent, they may inflict certain conditions or otherwise alter their current state of health in ways generally associated with items at hand. In particular, a Flame Orb will burn the target, a King's Rock or Razor Fang will cause the target to flinch, a Light Ball will paralyze the target, a Mental Herb will cure the target of any infatuation, a White Herb will normalize any stat loss the target has experienced, a Poison Barb will poison the opponent, a Toxic Orb will badly poison the target, and all berries will have the effects activated immediately if possible upon impact. While some of these changes might end up benefiting the opposition, the Fling attack is nonetheless a super versatile attack that can fit the strategies of just about any trainer that favors items and can make battles a far more complex and vigorous challenge overall. It was for this reason that Silvercrow released the move as TM56 within their 4th through 7th generation line of TMs, as TM59 in the 8th generation line, and TM56 again with the recent Sentinel Special Edition set, and most recently as TM43 in the 9th generation line, from which it has garnered and maintained tremendous popularity among all types of trainers. Since the Fling attack is performed quickly and with a projectile weapon in all cases, there is no way to directly counter-dodge the attack aside from somehow destroying the projectile itself before it impacts. Additionally, armor will do little to reduce the damage dealt by this attack. The Fling attack might not get much action amongst conventional warfare, but as a versatile tool of mayhem that can easily adapt to the preferences of the user, it is without a doubt a dangerous move that trainers should suspect and prepare for with strong defenses and any form of stats-based protection available if the opposition is holding an unusual item or one that is otherwise detrimental to their, and in turn your own, health. In effect, the Dark Pulse attack involves user releasing a concussive burst of anti-positive energy and a massive wave that strikes opponents from nearly any distance away. The Dark Pulse attack is one of the few known non-physical Dark-type attacks and is more than validated as a powerful move by this fact. Anti-positive energy is highly unstable on its own and tends to spontaneously destabilize and dissipate when not concentrated in a physical structure. When applied to the surrounding air, however, this breakdown can easily prove to be a devastating weapon in battle. The Dark Pulse itself is the result of the user discharging large amounts of anti-positive energy into the surrounding airspace without physically emplacing it within the air itself. As a result of the massive amount of energy being injected and the resulting energy dissipation that occurs, this forms an intense burst of anti-positive energy that swamps the surrounding airspace and lurches forward as a continuous wave, striking whatever target manages to get in the way in the process. This sudden blast of anti-positive energy deals significant amounts of damage to whatever target it manages to hit, and can travel through the air quickly enough before dissipating completely to inflict damage on just about any target on the battlefield. But what makes it particularly devious is the fact that the sudden influx of anti-positive energy tends to result in the opponent experiencing some form of physical shock, and thus cause them to flinch about 20% of the time. It may not have the same physical appeal as other Dark-type attacks, but for special attackers dying to put the hurt on Psychic and Ghost types in a hurry, this attack can more than prove to be a powerful force that few creatures will be able to completely recover from, especially since it is affected by items like King's Rocks. It was for this reason that Silvercrow released the move as TM79 within their 4th generation line of TMs, but complaints over the unfair power and accuracy of the move eventually led to its discontinuation. A recent resurgence in popularity, however, seems to overcome these complaints by a long shot, as the move was reinstated as TM97 in the company's 6th generation line and remained popular enough to retain its status in the company's 7th generation line, as TR50 in the company's first line of TRs, as TM79 within this recent Sentinel Special Edition set, and TM94 in the 9th generation line of TMs. Due to its use of pure anti-positive energy to inflict damage, there is no way to directly counter or dodge the Dark Pulse attack. Additionally, armor will do little to reduce the damage dealt by this attack. The Dark Pulse attack is more than powerful enough to make things difficult for defensively weak opponents, and can easily help the opposition keep their targets from moving, but since it is very difficult to avoid in most cases, only strong defenses will be able to reduce the overall threat the move poses. In essence, the Night Slash attack involves striking an opponent with a rapid, powerful slashing strike with an appended sheath and anti-positive energy. Much as with the Slash attack, the Night Slash attack involves attacking an opponent with a claws or blade accessories of some sort in an effort to inflict gruesome-looking physical damage. Even though the Night Slash attack is considered to be a physical attack because it deals damage directly through physical contact, the majority of the damage done is delivered in the form of pure anti-positive energy. By encasing a particular body part in anti-positive energy, such as a claw or wing, and then striking without warning, Pokémon using the Night Slash attack can deliver a considerable amount of physical trauma through the direct infusion of anti-positive energy. While this means that the Night Slash attack is a bit more costly in terms of stamina than a traditional Slash attack, the fact that most of the damage is done via anti-positive energy means that even Pokémon without particularly sharp appendages can actually learn it. Interestingly enough, this also means that most of the Pokémon able to naturally learn the Night Slash attack are not actually Dark types at all, granting it a wide usage among otherwise disparate types. Moreover, the combined effect of the strike of the anti-positive energy produces the same nerve response generated within a Slash attack, granting the attack an increased chance of scoring a critical hit, and thus making it a great offensive move when fighting against defensively minded opponents. Since an opponent was using an appendage of some sort in order to execute a Night Slash attack, striking otherwise damaging the offending appendage can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. Otherwise, however, it is exceptionally difficult to dodge the attack in close quarters. Additionally, armor will do little to reduce the damage dealt by this attack. The Night Slash attack is certainly a move more than capable of leaving a nasty scar on anything it hits, so decent defenses and protection against critical hits are recommended above all other options for weakening its overall strength, as is a careful eye to hopefully dodge this otherwise surprising move when utilized unexpectedly by an opponent in battle. Much as its name suggests, the Switcheroo technique involves using bodily movements accelerated by anti-positive energy to quickly switch the positions of held items between two Pokémon faster than they can actually react. The Trick and Switcheroo techniques are effectively the same type of move utilized in two separate distinct ways. The Switcheroo technique is designed to allow the user and one other nearby target switch items by moving close to them and switching the two items physically without them having time to react. This is primarily helped by the fact that a user utilizes anti-positive energy while using the technique to accelerate their bodily movements past their normal capabilities. The move is highly uncommon and will only work if both targets are holding items, and if the target is not holding an associated Mega Stone, but when an item switch of some sort needs to be made immediately and promptly, this move can more than make things difficult for unprepared or otherwise item-dependent Pokémon in battle. Aside from not having your Pokémon hold any items, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the Switcheroo technique. In essence, the Torment technique involves tormenting the opposition and sending it into a rage that prevents them from using the same move twice in a row. This technique is similar to the Swagger technique in that it is designed to enrage the opposition to the point where they are unable to battle properly anymore. The only catch is that the Torment technique relies on more basic principles to inflict its effects. In a Torment technique, the user viciously torments the opponent while exuding a strong aura of anti-positive energy. The combined force of these two actions serve to anger the opponent immensely and confuse them to the point where they become incapable of using the same move twice in a row without undergoing a small mental breakdown. This move might not be the most readily applicable technique to all situations, and has no effect on attacks like Roll Out an Ice Ball, but when the opponent possesses an extremely powerful attacker technique that needs to be dealt with, this technique can at the very least prove to be a useful method of halting their crushing advances and potentially allowing the user to gain some leverage in battle. Despite its limited uses, the sheer practicality of the Torment technique made it very appealing to Silphco, leading them to release it as TM41 within the 3rd generation line of TMs. From there, it's managed to find enough popularity to maintain its status throughout all successive generations, including the recent Sinnoh Special Edition set. Due to its unique attributes, there is no way to directly counter the effects of the Torment technique. Much as the name might suggest, the Flatter technique involves user using flattery to confuse an opponent. This technique is a strange variation of the Swagger technique that uses anti-positive energy to alter the overall effects it has on the opposition. When using a Flatter technique, a Pokémon literally flatters the opponent while releasing waves of anti-positive energy towards them. In doing so, the combination of the two forces ends up confusing the target. At the same time, however, the anti-positive energy is infused into the target's body, in turn raising the special attack stat. This has no real effect on how much damage the target ends up doing to itself, but it can prove to be a real problem if the user is weak against their target's special attacks. Even so, the Flatter technique is an interesting move that can at least provide some benefits where there might otherwise not be any in battle. Moves, items, and abilities that either cure or prevent confusion are highly recommended for countering the Flatter technique. In essence, the Taunt technique involves user taunting the opponent and enraging them to the point where they become incapable of using anything other than attacks for a short period of time. This move is similar to the Swagger technique in that it is designed to enrage the opponent to the point where they are unable to battle properly anymore. The only catch is that the Taunt technique relies more on basic principles to inflict its effects. In a Taunt technique, the user viciously taunts the opponent while exuding a strong aura of anti-positive energy. The combined forces of these two actions serve to anger the opposition immensely and confuse them to the point where they become incapable of using anything but attacks for about 3 combat turns without undergoing a small mental breakdown. This move might not be the most readily applicable technique to all situations, but when an opponent enjoys using techniques to bolster their offenses, defenses, or cripple your capabilities in battle, this technique can at the very least prove to be a useful method of halting their crushing advances and potentially allowing the user to gain some leverage in battle. Despite its limited uses, the sheer practicality of the Taunt technique made it very appealing to Silphco, leading them to release it as TM12 in the 3rd generation line of TMs. From there, it's managed to find enough popularity to maintain its status throughout almost all successive generations, including the recent Sinnoh Special Edition set, only recently being converted into TR-37 for the first line of TRs, and then TM-87 for the 9th generation line of TMs. Due to its unique attributes, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the Taunt technique aside from waiting for it to wear off. Much as the name might suggest, the Snatch technique involves using a burst of anti-positive energy to entrap and steal the effects of status moves used by the opponent and garner their benefits. The Snatch technique's actual functions are still relatively misunderstood, and has yet to be determined how it actually works, but its effects are nonetheless devastating on any battlefield. When a Snatch technique isn't utilized, the user patiently waits for an opponent to begin using a move that will somehow change the status of someone on the battlefield. If the user and attacker are something that's otherwise unaffected by Snatch, the technique will fail. If, however, the user uses a move that Snatch can't work on, the user will release a burst of anti-positive energy that will attack the opponent, steal the benefits of their move, and grant them to the user instead. This alone can make the Snatch technique extremely useful and frustrating overall, even if its applications might be somewhat limited in most cases, and thusly makes it probably one of the greatest anti-technique moves a Pokémon can have access to in combat. It was for this reason that Silphco released the move as TM49 within its 3rd and 4th generation line of TMs, but complaints over how unfair the move was eventually led to its discontinuation. Due to its unique attributes, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the Snatch technique. Much as the name also suggests, the Fake Tears technique involves crying loudly but falsely in an effort to fluster the opposition. The Fake Tears technique is a bizarre move that's either developed by younger Pokémon as a defensive technique, or otherwise as a way of regulating fluid levels within their body in the case of Bonsly. Regardless, the effect it has on the battlefield is more than apparent. In using a Fake Tears technique, the user balls uncontrollably as a muscle reflex fueled by anti-positive energy and not out of actual sadness, thus enabling them to cry for long periods of time without ever needing to change their mood. Upon observing these crying fits, most Pokémon will begin to feel sorry for the user, or otherwise become very flustered, in turn lowering their mental resistance against damage, and consequently sharply lowering their special defense stat about twice as much as normal. It may not be among the most conventional ways of making an opponent weaker in battle, but for those that don't mind having their Pokémon look like crybabies, this technique can easily make Pokémon that specialize in special attacks nearly unbeatable in battle, which might explain why it's made into TM47 for Silphco's 8th generation line of TMs and TRs, and TM3 in the 9th generation line. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's special defense stat or lower an opponent's special attack stat are highly recommended for dealing with the Fake Tears technique. As one might wager from its name, the Embargo technique involves user enshrouding the opposition in a sheath of anti-positive energy that prevents them from using their held items and prevents their trainer from using any items on them. The Embargo technique is a somewhat mysterious but nonetheless potent move that can keep an opponent from using any sort of item to their advantage in battle. The Embargo itself is a sheath of anti-positive energy that the user forms around the target that lasts for about 5 combat turns before fading. While it is present, the anti-positive energy zaps the target every time it tries to use its held item, or an opposing trainer tries to use an item on it, in turn preventing all forms of item use, with the exception of Megastones. The effects of the technique might be easily removed simply by switching out Pokémon, but considering the fact that the move lasts for a decent amount of time otherwise, that's still more than enough time to take advantage of an itemless opponent, and more than enough time to wreck any item-dependent strategy they might have. It was for this reason that Silphco released the move as TM63 within their 4th through 7th generation line of TMs, from which it garnered decent popularity among anti-defensive strategists everywhere before being discontinued afterwards. Aside from waiting for it to wear off, there is no way to directly counter the effects of the Embargo technique. In essence, the Nasty Plot technique involves user stimulating its brain into thinking negative thoughts through anti-positive energy in an effort to increase the power of its special abilities. This technique is a unique move whose functions are still a bit misunderstood, but whose effects are more than apparent. In using a Nasty Plot technique, the user injects anti-positive energy straight into its brain in an attempt to stimulate the formation of negative thoughts and evil intentions. While this move will only cause sudden personality shifts in the most extreme of cases, the overall effect it has is a heightened awareness of the user's special powers, and thus a heightened ability to use those powers and a critical increase in the special attack stat, about twice as much as normal. This move might not appear to be a serious threat to unsuspecting trainers, but when fighting at a distance, this move can easily prove to be the downfall of defensively weak opponents, and is probably one of the most feared moves among offensive fighters, along with the equally powerful Swords Dance technique, helping to explain why it was made into TR68 for Silphco's first line of TRs, and TM140 in the 9th generation line of TMs. Attacks and techniques that raise a Pokemon's special defense stat or lower an opponent's special attack stat are highly recommended for dealing with the Nasty Plot technique.
That's it for this episode, so stay tuned for the next episode of TM Technical Movement. Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.